What is going on, my salty home gymmers? Let me ask you something. Where were we 8 months ago, huh? Because a lot has changed from 8 months ago. At least for this channel it has. I've updated my cameras. I've updated my sound. I've figured out how to clean my lens. And we're a few hundred subscribers further than we were 8 months ago. But the more things change, the more they stay the same, because also improving with me is the Lionscool leg extension leg curl machine. A plate-loaded, seated leg extension, prone leg curl for the home gym. 8 months ago, we did a video on the Lionscool leg curl leg extension version 2, which at that time was the hottest new thing. And then a little bit of time went by and the version 3 came out. And by the time I got around to asking about the version 3, Lionscool had already started working on the version 4, as you should do with all good things. I waited, but was my wait worth it? I guess you'll have to stick around and find out. So the first thing that I'll begin with is the same thing that I begin all my videos with: the assembly. But in order to talk about the assembly, I first got to talk about the packaging, which this one was a little strange. I got one box that was just absolutely immaculate, and then I got another box that looked like it fought an entire war to get to me. Like, this guy went through it. He was on an absolute journey, a mission to get to my house. But I get a lot of packages like these, and sometimes it's not always on the company that ships it. Sometimes it is on the postal service or package delivery service that is storing and shipping these packages. These guys go through so many warehouses and so many trucks by the time they get to you, it's hard to tell how they've been handled. But I will say, even though this guy was haggard by the time it got to my front doorstep, even though everything was all thrown around in there, all of my parts successfully made it here. As I said in my last video, because I was assembling that machine, actually on the same day I was assembling this machine, wait until you put the machine fully together before you tighten all the bolts, because similar to the last video we did, I did tighten down the frame, got a little ahead of myself, and it caused a little twist in the frame, which affected the functionality on my machine. So I ended up having to loosen those bolts, relax them, and relax the base of the machine so it flattened out a little bit. And then after that, I tightened it back down and everything worked functionally. A very familiar set of parts and setup and assembly here. Some very familiar looking items, and then other items that looked unfamiliar, which we'll get to here in a little bit. Now, before I get to the juicy stuff, let me run through these specs real quick. This machine is 41 inches tall, 45 inches wide, and 56 inches long depth-wise. To be honest with you, off the top of my head, I don't recall the measurements from the last machine. The base of this machine looks identical. I highly doubt there's any change to the measurements here. If you have one of the old versions, this version will fit in that space. Now let me talk about the materials real quick, because the last time I talked about materials on this machine, the first thing I brought up was the coating. The coating on this machine is pretty much identical to the version 2 that I had, except for the fact that it arrived with a lot less nicks and scratches and dings and things like that in the coating. Even the package that got to me all torn up, everything I took out of it didn't have a scratch on it. My coating came in flawless. Your base is still that really solid base that we all loved and I talked about in my last video from the V2. I think in this price range that this machine's in, that really separates it from its competitors. Another thing that set the V2 apart from its competitors, they're back with the V4, is these pads. Yeah, that's right. I'm bringing some of the old gags back. I can't say enough about these pads, especially the back and the seat pad. They just have longevity written all over them. More and more home gym machines need pads like these on them. Firm, pulled tight, and leather, pleather, or whatever you want to call it. It seems like you can give a little bit of wear to. Glad to see Lionscool kept the same pads they kept from the V2. Also back is this nice, thick leg pad, which also has a good width to it. But one thing I did want to talk about here is, for some reason, the tilt is back. I know a lot of people talk about this tilt that the Lionscool leg curl, leg extension machines all have, so I'll talk about it here too. I don't know why it still exists, even with all these updates. We're gonna talk about more updates here in a minute. But with that being said, I didn't talk about the slight leg pad tilt when I did the video on my V2, and that's because I really didn't think it affected anything functionally. With that being said, I feel like I have to talk about it here with my V4 video, because I feel like it was a little bit of a buzz topic after I reviewed the V2. But here's when I'll stop and say, just like my version 2, the slight tilt in my leg pad with the version 4 does not affect my functionality of this machine whatsoever. I will admit that it is a little strange that it exists 4 versions later, but again, doesn't affect anything. Now, another thing materials-wise that I just want to talk about is the large pulley, which also doubles as your height adjustment for the leg pad. Your welds seem to be more on the inside here rather than the outside. Definitely made differently this time around. It does seem to be a little less janky of a component. Not that I had any issues out of my version 2, but I did question the structural integrity of it a little bit on the version 2 in my last video. So this has definitely been improved. It feels a little more solid here. Also being changed is the small pulley here on the top, which has been changed from a nylon pulley to an aluminum pulley. We have this nice thick cable back, which was improved all the way back to the version 2 that we talked about. And we have a big change here to my lever arm. So I don't really read from a script in my videos anymore. I just kind of wing it, and if someone in the comments says something that I've missed, I just reply later, and that's how I do my videos. It makes it a lot easier for me. So now that we're talking about this lever arm and its pulleys and everything else, we're kind of starting to walk out of the materials category and into the functional category. This entire component right here is just a massive, massive improvement. It's not quite my favorite improvement yet, but I'll get to that. Specifically, I'm going to talk about your plate horns on this lever arm, because as far as I can tell, the lever arm itself seems to be the same lever arm on the version 2, maybe welded a little better. It's been too long since I've seen the V2 to tell, but the plate horns are definitely different. And if you notice a major difference even between the V3 and the V4 is that there are now plate horns on both sides of this lever arm instead of one. When I used the V2, there seemed to be more tension on one side of the lever arm than the other. I may have talked about this in my last video on the V2, but it definitely seemed to pull to that one side, which didn't really affect it functionally that I knew of. But now we have a more balanced double-sided lever arm, so now weight can be placed on both sides of that lever arm, resulting in a much more balanced tension. And with that balanced tension in this new upgraded aluminum pulley, I gotta tell you, the smoothness in this thing is a drastic improvement from the V2. Now that this improvement has been made, it's kind of like I didn't really know what I was missing, because this thing is smooth as butter. Now, with that being said, two things that I'm going to mention here. Number one, it seems like this version requires just a little bit more plate-loaded weight resistance than the V2, unless I've gotten a lot more stronger in my legs in 8 months, which, let's be honest, not that much. I don't know if it's getting away from its 1-to-1 ratio here, maybe more of a 3-2, but it's very close to a 1-1 ratio, but not quite. And with that being said, I do want to mention for a lot of you big beefers,
big meaty man slapping meat,
you might want to consider not using bumper plates on this. I think you'll be much happier just using regular steel or iron plates on this. Things that take up a lot less space. And the second thing that I want to mention here about the lever arm that could use a little bit more improvement, and I'm not sure what's going on here. My plate horns kind of have like a give to them. The lever arm doesn't, just the plate horns themselves. It doesn't really affect anything. Once weight is on them, obviously, they don't have that wobble and it doesn't affect anything, but I just felt like it was something at least worth mentioning in this video. It's not really a complaint of mine, but just something that would be a very easy improvement. What we're gonna talk about here is my absolute favorite improvement of this machine, of the V4. Didn't use the V3, but I don't think it had this on it yet. This improvement was much needed. I think the biggest drawback over the V2 compared to its competitors, and I even talked about this in a couple comparison videos, is that the leg curl didn't quite go deep enough. A lot of us like to start those leg curls in a real deep position, get that real nice deep stretch, but check this out. Look at how deep I can bring this thing in. This isn't even as far as it can go, because another improvement made on this machine is that this little fella here has a peg right here that's removable. And I can completely turn this pad around in a matter of seconds. And it brings it in so deep that I can't even fit my legs behind it. So with its now 9 adjustment points, this guy fits anything, any person of any size. And gosh darn it, that's what we need. Now, if I just want to take this pin out and just let it ride, which I do quite often, then I can do that as well. I can still get that deep stretch. No, I just told you not to use bumper plates on this thing, but I can't help it. The home gymmer inside of me can't help but use bumper plates. You can see I have the pin out, and now I just have so much room to play, and I got that nice deep starting point. Back are the same handles from before, but man, that feels just awesome, starting real deep like that. My pad just doesn't feel like it's in an awkward position. It wants to move with me. Man, what an awesome leg curl this is. I got multiple points of adjustment here. And back is the prone. There's a spider on the wall back there. For some reason with my leg curl, I do feel like I'm kind of a little further back than with the V2, but it still functions great. I still get a great movement and I still get a great leg curl. My handles here still kind of have that slight wiggle to them. I definitely would recommend like a sandwich grip for these handles to take the wiggle out of them. It's not really a big deal. I just felt like complaining about something. Everything's just so much smoother this time around. The machine just feels so much more balanced and there just feels like there's so much less strange resistance. Like I said, not that it was a problem in the version 2, but you can definitely tell some of its competitors out there were just a little smoother than it. Now I feel like we're there as far as resistance curve and as far as cable smoothness, and for its price, and that's a very important term here, for its price, I am loving this thing. Because you can go out and spend bukus of money on an absolute unit leg curl, but for between $400 and $450 to own a machine like this is just crazy to me. These plate-loaded cable lever arm machines, they're all the rage now. Take it back 5, 6 years ago, we didn't have anything like this. We just had to deal with those weird resistance curves of the plate-loaded pendulum leg curl leg extensions, which weren't bad, but again, this mechanism takes out that resistance curve. I guess what I'm trying to say is it just amazes me how far we've come in the home gym world that now we are here for a little over $400. It's pretty awesome. And I'll conclude by saying that Lionscool's approach is kind of awesome. Man, the sky is extremely angry right now. I don't know if you can hear that storm right now. Lionscool's approach is kind of cool. They just improve their stuff. Kind of a wild concept, isn't it? Before you go, make sure you subscribe. Because if you don't subscribe, then you're gonna miss out on the Budget Home Gym All-in-One Tournament. We're gonna be taking all the best plate-loaded home gym all-in-one racks, the Smith machine cables, and because I love doing comparison videos so much, I love just making brands compete against each other. I just said, hey, let's put them all in a tournament. So probably within the next couple of weeks, I'm gonna be announcing the brands and machines participating in the rules of this tournament. And we're gonna do a series of comparison videos over the course of the next couple of months. I will tell you which one is my favorite at the end of all this. But until then, stay active, stay grinding. Thanks for joining me as always.